Score plays Anthony Davis, PFC. LOL. $10,100 DraftKings. $11,300 FanDuel. Nobody is discussing Davis regarding MVP. But this guy has been as good as anyone over the last 2 months. The Brow has established a 51-point floor over his last 33 games while posting a 57-point average in that span.
We've also seen a D showcase an 80-point upside in that stretch, which is scary for this disastrous Detroit defense. The Pistons post a 25th OPRK against opposing centers while ranked 29th in defensive efficiency.
He was held to just 29 minutes in a blowout against them earlier in the year but still had over 60 DK points. Bam Adebayo, C. Mia, $8,300 DraftKings, $9,000 FanDuel. Miami is extremely shorthanded right now, playing without Terry Rozier and Jimmy Butler. That should allow Bam to do everything, posting a 31% usage rate with those two off the floor.
That was on full display when he dropped 53 fantasy points in the most recent game without those two, averaging over 40 DK points per game when JB has been sidelined this year. Milwaukee is a scary matchup for most, but Adebayo amassed 56 fantasy points in their one matchup earlier in the year.
Cash game considerations: Giannis Antetokounmpo, PFC. Mil. $11,700 DraftKings. $11,800 FanDuel. This former MVP has been mauling his opponents over the last month, posting a 62-point average across his last 22 games. That's the stud we've become accustomed to, with Giannis displaying a 95-point upside in that superb stretch.
Playing without Chris Middleton has put more on his plate, and we love that since Giannis scored 61 fantasy points in his last matchup with Miami. It's rare to find a guaranteed 50 to 60 DK points on a 6-game slate, but Antetokounmpo provides that sort of floor.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, PG.SG. OKC, $10,300 DraftKings. $11,600 FanDuel. SGA has skyrocketed up the MVP odds, sitting second in that standing. That shows how ridiculous his season has been, scoring at least 38 DraftKings points in all but 2 games.
Gilgeous also has a 54-point average and is simply the best guard in the NBA right now. Orlando is an outstanding matchup, too, with SGA tallying 37 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 steals in their one matchup.
Tyler Herro, PG.SG. Mia, $6,900 DraftKings. $7,800 FanDuel. Herro might be rostered by everybody on this slate, and rightfully so. We just talked about how Butler and Rozier are both missing, which should allow Herro to handle the ball on every possession.
That means we're looking at 40 minutes, 20 shots, and a 30% usage rate, which is incredible since he has 38 and 43 fantasy points in his 2 most recent outings. That's not far off his 37-point average, but we expect that to be his floor with so many Miami players missing.
Not to mention, Milwaukee has a 26th OPRK against opposing guards. GPP targets Keegan Murray, SF, PF. Sack, $5,100 DraftKings. $6,400 FanDuel. It's shocking to see Murray's price drop so far because he's played at an $8,000 level earlier in the year. The sharpshooter showcased a 70-point upside earlier in the season and is coming off a 38-point gem in his most recent outing.
That's the slump buster we've been waiting for because this is the lowest price we'll see for Murray for the remainder of the season. Phoenix is a fantastic matchup, totaling a 22nd OPRK against opposing forwards. Ozar Thompson, SF. Det. $4,900 DraftKings. $5,900 FanDuel. This kid was terrific as a starter earlier in the year and is back in that role now after the deadline.
In his 27 starts this season, Thompson is averaging 31 DK points per game across 28 minutes a night. That's all you can ask for from a $5,000 player, but that role should continue with how many players the Pistons moved at the trade deadline.
A matchup with the Lakers only adds to his intrigue, with LA allowing the 5th most fantasy points to opposing forwards. Jamie Jaquez, SF, PF. MIA. $4,500 DraftKings. $5,900 FanDuel. This Miami roster has been obliterated by injuries, which should allow Jaquez to resume his role as a starter.
He was moved to the bench when they added Rozier, but they need him in there for 30 to 35 minutes with Rozier and JB both missing. In the 25 games Jamie has played over 30 minutes, he's averaging 30 DraftKings points per game.
If you get that from a $4,500 player, you have a piece of the optimal lineup. We also don't mind that Milwaukee ranks 23rd in total defense. Value plays Rudy Gobert, C. Min. $7,200 DraftKings, $8,100 FanDuel. Gobert is the frontrunner for Defensive Player of the Year, returning to the stud we saw in Utah.
The big man is averaging 37 DraftKings points per game while establishing a 25-point floor. Both of those numbers could be on the rise against Portland, surrendering the second most fantasy points to opposing centers.
Despite being held to 28 minutes in a blowout against the Blazers earlier in the year, Gobert still gobbled up 51 DraftKings points. Dennis Schroeder, PG, BKN, $4,800 DraftKings, $6,600 FanDuel. We're not quite sure how the Schroeder acquisition will play out in Brooklyn, but the first game is inspiring. The German had 39 DK points in his debut, doing most of the ball handling for the Nets.
He scored at least 39 fantasy points twice over the last week and remains a significant value below $5,000 in this newfound role. In addition, Schroeder has played Boston 4 times this season, averaging 31 fantasy points per game against them.
Advantageous pricing. Anthony Davis, PF, C. Lal, $10,100 DraftKings, $11,300 FanDuel. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, PG, SG, OKC, $10,300 DraftKings, $11,600 FanDuel. Keegan Murray, SF, PF, SAC, $5,100 DraftKings, $6,400 FanDuel. Ozar Thompson, SF, Det, $4,900 DraftKings, $5,900 FanDuel. Jamie Jaquez, SF, PF, MIA, $4,500 DraftKings, $5,900 FanDuel. Dennis Schroeder, PG, BKN, $4,800 DraftKings, $6,600 FanDuel. Franz Wagner, SG, SF, ORL, $7,100 DraftKings, $8,200 FanDuel. Derek White, PG, SG, Boss, $6,300 DraftKings, $7,300 FanDuel. Jrue Holiday, PG, Boss, $6,200 DraftKings, $5,200 FanDuel. Dennis Smith, PG, SG, BKN, $4,700 DraftKings, $6,100 FanDuel. Brook Lopez, C. Mill, $6,000 DraftKings, $7,000 FanDuel. Naz Reid, PF, C. Min, $4,200 DraftKings, $5,800 FanDuel. Malik Monk, SG, SAC, $5,800 DraftKings, $6,900 FanDuel.